We appreciate you attending this today, especially after the storm. If you have a hard time hearing the meeting, we have hearing devices for your convenience. Also, please turn your cell phones to off or vibrate during the duration of this meeting. Thank you again for your attendance.
The call of this meeting to order, invocation and pledge of allegiance by Council Mtg.
Our most gracious and loving Heavenly Father, thank you so much for this paradise that we live in. Thank you so much for letting us have the town employees, citizens, and the first responders to help us through this storm. We wish that you would please bless all the sick and afflicted and those without hope. We ask in your name, amen. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I want to thank everybody for coming. First item of business, public hearing number one. The first of this public hearing is the citizen comment on the proposed amendment to section 10.38A, illumination of the airport. The proposed text amendment was requested by Case Beer, airport staff.
Mr. Mayor, I don't have any citizens signed up to speak, but I'm sure the applicant is here.
Hey, gentlemen, do you have any questions about it? I would like to bring to the board's attention, and as a former council member and an airport authority member in, what is it? Greenville. He was what you are, and also an airport authority, and he would vouch for what I'm saying. The airport, we're not better than anybody else. We're not worse than anybody else. We're different. And we need to have the same consideration that other municipalities in this, not only in this state, but in the country, give those airports and their understanding of the airport. We have vehicles, our aircraft, some of them are over 100 feet of wingspan, and the tails of the airplane are over 35 feet. Safety to FAA and the country, we have families coming in and out of here on a regular basis, daily, nightly. We have to have special situations. We're just different. We can't be considered the same as a shopping center or a condominium. We have a different mission. Our mission is public service and economic engine. So we're building a new hangar out there. There's going to be a total of 8 aircraft that you will receive tax dollars from. And you don't have to do anything to them except the money. They expect the hangar to be safe and lit safe. So it's just a safety issue, and that's all it is. We wouldn't ask for anything. We're not going to build hangars above your height ordinance. We're not going to build buildings. We're not going to put signs above your height ordinance. But there's certain unique things there that we need from a safety, and that's the lighting of this hangar. Ray, do you have anything?
I think there's a staff report, council wants.
We're closing up here, we'll reject.
Good.
Thank
Any
you very
questions?
much.
Thank you.
I would like to invite the council and the mayor to come out to the airport and to see what, an investment that you have in there. And there is some incredible economic benefits possibly coming to this town from the airport, and you need to be involved in that. Thank you.
Mayor, a question for council.
Should I close the public hearing? I'd like to make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second. So, council, listening to Mr. Franklin, and I find his argument, or the argument the town would prove to be compelling about safety and illumination for aircraft and needing a different height for lights. No argument with that. That's completely reasonable to me. Earlier, much earlier, we talked about signage. We were going to research language reasonably related to airport. And I bring that up because what we're evolving towards is a world within a world. And I want to be clear what those rules are. I don't know if we ever got to that. Perhaps Jake, you can answer that. Where are we with the signage regulation for the airport?
Please.
In short, that was some time ago, and I'm not really sure. There was a text amendment, as you know, brought before council, and it was discussed and went back and forth. The planning board had also reviewed it. That was some time ago. I don't recall if one was adopted or if it was sent to a committee or approved or not approved or even denied. I don't know.
My purpose in raising this is to support the airport and to support our ability to function with them with certain set-asides because they are in need. Mr. Franklin argued. I agree with that. And it occurred to me that we left the signage pieces kind of hanging out there.
Well, that was, I think, as far as for not indulging any of the legal advice that we discussed with respect, this has nothing to do with the lighting here for tonight, but on the signage, I had some concerns that I expressed to Mr. Kelly and staff, and I don't believe that was ever brought back. Correct. And I'll be happy to go into that legal advice, but that would be more appropriately done in closed session.
Yeah, absolutely. What I'm striving for here is a consistent philosophy of how we're going to deal with the airport. We're going to make specific exceptions when they're warranted. Perhaps signage, perhaps we will, if we for lighting and so on. I just want us to be consistent. That's all.
I would just say, as a general practical matter, land use regulations are generally tailored to type of use. For instance, commercial or office industrial land use restrictions are markedly different than subdivision restrictions.
Okay, thank you.
Any more discussion?
Mr. Mayor, all I want to say is that as a licensed private pilot, that I agree with this. But you can't have too much land in an airport. You need it.
Any more discussion? Anybody like to make a motion?
Mr. Mayor, make a motion to approve the proposed text amendment and to adopt the associated plan consistency statement.
Second.
All in favor?
Can I ask Jake a question? Can I ask Jake a question? Was there a second topic that we need to discuss about this?
At the planning board level, the text amendment that you guys have before you here wasn't the original draft. There was some mutually agreed upon modifications made at the planning board level. And so that's what you see before you now. It was originally larger. There was a separate section. One had a section just for pole lights at the airport, and one was just for walls, and it got chopped down with one of those.
I wonder one other item that still needs to be discussed.
As far as the airport goes, no, apart from what I just mentioned.
This is how we were doing it.
You will probably be back here again with another text amendment. Well, this one is specifically for lighting on airport airport structures. And his original application had requests for pole lights at airports. And planning board requested that that part be removed until there was a need in the future for him to do that.
Is that something council could discuss?
Absolutely.
Well, the whole thing, what I see, if they're coming to us, telling us what they need, and they're looking to the future, why in the world would we wait and come back and do another amendment to this, not the way to tackle this?
I don't want to answer or speak for the planning board, but for myself, I wholeheartedly agree with you.
I would agree with you, what they need.
Unfortunately, you guys don't have that exact proposed wording. Actually, I take it back on page, let's see here, 9 of your agenda packet was their original application that shows the existing wording and then the current proposed wording for both the lighting sections for wall, which is attached, and then also for the pole mounted light structures. And page 8 is where you see what's already in there that staff included in the staff report. Page 9 is what was removed at the planning board level for the pole mounted light stuff.
The planning board didn't feel comfortable with the pole lights. Their discussion leaned towards it wasn't equal to everything else that's on the island. And we explained that this is unique. We promised that any lighting that's on these poles for these big parking areas would be down. And if they created any problem to go out into the community, we would make sure they would be down, and it's a safety issue. So my engineering firm said, well, we'll come back and talk to you again if you didn't feel comfortable with it. There was this overriding not understanding that we're not trying to be special. We're just trying to be safe. And we have different requirements because of the type of vehicles that we take care of.
I agree.
Yeah, we
Would you amend your motion to add this verbiage in and tackle all this in one motion?
I will. I'll amend my second.
Mayor.
Yeah, separate motion, I think.
So we get a separate motion?
Yeah, that one's been voted on.
Okay.
You want that second vote?
Yes, sir.
If you do that.
Brian, get me started here on this.
We're on page 9, but we're not sure which part we just passed and which part needs to be passed.
I'm going to say the other proposed amendment dealing with 50-foot lights, am I correct?
It's actually at the bottom of page 8. It starts with the airport district, the AD, full mounted light poles, and it continues on to page 9.
Make the motion.
One moment, ma'am, if you don't mind, please. Can you give staff a moment? I want to make sure that the public hearing that was open and closed was broad enough to cover this motion as well. Just a moment. Take a quick recess, Mayor.
Yeah.
Thank you.
This is akin to a football we play. Doesn't hurt.
All right.
Get it right.
They're going to look at the tag.
Everybody ready to come back? We're gonna
Wait,
wait.
this is checking legality. Hey,
If you're taking what we're doing, this would be a very great thing that you're doing. Not having us come back and go over it again. We appreciate it very much.
And
There's some that everything can be turned.
Mayor, just for clarification, what we're making sure of is that the notice for the public hearing. We're just, for everyone's edification, what we're trying to make sure is that a notice of public hearing and then the hearing that we had, that notice was broad enough to cover the second motion that's apparently about to be made.
so she's actually gonna look for the public.
Thanks, you would.
Have that affidavit back in the file, yeah. But Jacob has to find it in his also emails.
I have the notice.
Yes. What affidavit you need.
You want to get it now, you want?
Let's just reset. Reset this item. So we don't hold the public up. And come back to it.
Okay.
We're moving to a different agenda.
The next time.
If we'll come back,
Yes, sir.
we'll have the next meeting.
No, well, what I'm thinking is, as soon as Jake can,
He's got the next agenda
as soon as he finishes what we're, for efficiency, we can move on, and then we can, make a motion to suspend the rules, bring the previous item back, if the public notice was long enough to cover the second. So the next item on the agenda would be, the second public hearing.
All right, we'll move on to that. Public hearing number 2, purpose of public hearing. Purpose of public hearing, please, citizens comment on proposed amendment to the Unified Development Ordinance. Walls and fence. What I would do is, or, who's here to speak on that?
I'm sorry, I don't have any speakers for that hearing.
Basically, we got like, make a motion to close the hearing.
I'll make a motion to close the meeting.
All in favor? Everybody discussion?
There is, Mr. Mayor. If I may ask Jake. So since this was a matter of no small concern to the community, it's something that is deeply distressing. I'd like you to read the second paragraph of the conclusion, because to me that should be emphatically enunciated. If you don't mind, where it says a major change proposed in the zoning ordinance. I'm on page 13, paragraph 2 of their conclusion. Who would mind reading out loud?
No problem. A major change proposed in this ordinance is the removal of walls that are permitted in the residential zoning areas, only being permitted in commercial type zoning districts. So the regulations applying to them would only apply in those zoning districts, and they are prohibited outright in residential zoning districts. The table of uses in Article 6 breaks down what type of structures, parentheses, walls, retaining walls, accessory structures, etc., is permissible in which zoning district.
Thank you. So any ambiguity with respect to the UDO of walls, residential zones is now resolved.
That is the whole purpose of this text amendment.
Thank you.
Any more discussion? Well, make a motion.
I make a motion, Mr. Mayor, to approve the text amendments and adopt the associated plan consistency statement.
Second. Second. All in favor? You will move on to public hearing number 3. The purpose of public hearing is to receive citizens' comment on proposed amendment to chapter 24, solid waste. With
I don't have any speakers signed up for this hearing.
Should next week, so. I'll make a motion to close the meeting.
Second.
all in favor? Everybody. Make a motion.
Jake, are you answering questions from Mrs. Moon?
Yes. Then I'll get that public out.
Okay. From the way I'm reading this, it's to allow park racks to be built, not mandating. Is that right?
That is a good summary, yes. It's not mandatory. Right now, they're prohibited. Someone cannot do it if they wanted to. This doesn't obligate one to do it, but if they chose to do so, it requires that it be permitted and gives specific standards that they have to meet.
Thank you.
So Jake, while you're there, sorry, it's a bad joke. But the summary of the history here, 2007 legislation, 2008, 14, 17, we've literally been all over the road with these car rack things. My question is a variant of Councilwoman Bell's. Why aren't we mandating them? This is necessary for hygienic safety. Why isn't it a requirement? Why is it an option?
I would say that's your choice. No, that would be council choice, they did want to make it. Before that, when it was, people lived there, and like you said, the history of it, back and forth and back and forth. This is something we'll look at during the budget cycle, where we continue recycling or pull back the cars and those kind of things. And that's why we brought it back to you for a decision to be made. And we sort of let that decision be made by council if they wanted to make it for you.
I think with all the issues we have going on with the recycling, my opinion would be to wait till budget time and just make it, by choice now.
Fair enough. My point is it's a half measure. If we really believe this is essential for maintenance of the beachfront and for health and safety, you want to mandate it. But any step forward is a step forward. I can support it. It's not going to be across the beachfront.
I agree with Council Bill. I think we need to leave it off the budget cycle and have a voluntary thing we're doing now and then wait to mandate it, because right now we're dealing with everything that's going on. Money tight with people, they got to pull permits and all this other stuff. I was going to get this mandate the children more money.
We're pushing both ends on that.
Right.
But if we don't make it mandatory, we need some consistency.
Well, that's what budget cycle will allow us to do. When we get to that point, if we want to mandate it.
Oh, for right now, if we make it voluntary, then if they choose to put a park holder out there, and they can, but it doesn't mandate something else we have to do right now.
But if they're gonna put one out there, it has to be consistent with what's going. How do we get them to?
Well, I mean, if I've got a fence in my backyard, it doesn't mean my next door neighbor has a fence. So this is just allowing people that want to have a park rack to have a park rack. See, now they can't.
What I'm asking is, it shouldn't all the cart racks on the light. That's what I think.
All the fences don't look alike. All the fences don't look alike. I mean, I just
I just think it ought to be consistent, right down, for aesthetic purposes. Right down there, they all look the same. It looks like it's organized, it's like it's neat, clean, as opposed to having one guy that has, we can pursue the standards that's in here, never build it, but it's not a mandate, it's a voluntary. So if they want to build it that way, they can. But we're not mandating that everybody has to do it.
I mean, this one gives dimensions, must be 3 sides.
On page 20.
The standard height. It's on page 20, starts on 27, standard.
Well,
Mayor, if I may, I might be able to make this easier. Your action tonight can be less restrictive than what was advertised, but not more restrictive. What was advertised was a voluntary, or you're allowing it, not mandating it, so you couldn't take any type of.
We can only do non-mandatory.
It's not voluntary. If you want to look at mandating it down the road, we would have to advertise for that. The whole purpose of the public notice to tell the public we're going to be considering this box. You can do less of the box. Can't do more than the box because that wasn't in the notice. You can be less restrictive than what you advertise, not more.
I'll yield to my colleagues' concerns about having so many issues to contend with. This is one that we should defer to the budget. But I would suggest, correct me if I'm wrong, Council, that if we adopt this, we are setting de facto standards.
Right. And what
So
you,
that's the answer. These are your standards. These dimensions. I mean,
Do these dimensions and standards, is that what you're talking about? Is that what you were referring to, John?
So I'm referring to if one neighbor has one that looks like a dolphin, the other one has one that looks like a turtle. I mean, you see what I'm getting at? I mean, you're leaving it open to, and then you're gonna go back and say to them, well, they're all down start over again because they all have to look alike.
I think I might be able to address that. I purposely, when designing these standards for park rights in this ordinance, steered clear of design standards. I certainly included reasonable standards the town would do about setbacks and height and location and placement. But when you get to the design level, like they all have to look like a turtle with these color. For an HOA regulation, certainly I could go into something like that. But we are somewhat limited when it comes to, we can't tell someone, unless they're in historic district or commercial or something, what color they can paint their house and that kind of stuff. There's certain limits. And I stopped at a certain level where I felt comfortable. I didn't want to legally approach it.
It's an effect for last people would say my trash car's falling over the big or with standards you got laid out.
Yes, they would need a permit, and we would have to review and inspect and issue the permit and verify compliance with all those standards.
I'm gonna make a motion to adopt the ordinance text modification.
All in favor? 4 out of 5.
I'm sorry, I didn't see the opposed.
Next item on the bid.
It's already voted.
Probably
I
gonna.
didn't vote yet.
Anybody call the vote? No.
Okay, I didn't see you call for the opposed, I'm sorry.
Thank you. Next item on the bid is presentation by Marty Nichols.
You have to keep the trash can with you.
I don't think you gave the opportunity to make all like turtles.
Give us some good news, Johnny.
I would like to really, I look forward to the day when I come here and I have good news. So, but we are working on it and develop, again, just introduce Mark Morello, who's, be helping me and somebody might have delegated to the members now about a year. And these two guys are helping, work through some of the issues that we'll talk about. So anyway, I just want to kind of go over some things we've been working on, talk a little bit about the storm summary. We talked about the post-storm beach and channel survey that's on the agenda tonight. Talk about some of the options that we're trying to talk with the agencies as far as beach bulldozing and pushing versus the use of the overwash material. Those are things that we're trying to work through to get some immediate protection back in place if possible. And we're also looking at some other options for an emergency bin with upland material, possibly extending the upcoming 2020-2021 project. We're also looking at combining the two projects, which will be challenging, and some additional comments. So first of all, just the storm summary. We haven't really had a chance to start looking at the models of this and how it will affect our designs for the current plan that's supposed to be constructed this winter. But just so you know, we went back and looked at the measured water levels, and what we found was that nearby in Myrtle Beach, the elevation was around 7, and in Wilmington was around 6.3. Now, when we say the still water level, that doesn't include the wave setup, so there's some additional that would be additional elevation that would be caused with that, and that's just the still water level. Just based on the statistics that we have run before, this is roughly somewhere between 25 and 50 year event, storm statistics, at least for water levels. For the offshore wave heights, those reached about 18.4 feet with a period of 13 seconds. So as you can imagine, just the momentum of that water on top of the storm surge really, really is what caused, what we are seeing today with all the overwash and the taking out of the boom that was in place. The offshore wave heights were probably somewhere between the 10 and 25 year event. So again, we've still got some analysis to do, but this probably, for all intents and purposes, was roughly around a 25 year event. It's probably going to affect the statistics, in this area to come. So the beach and channel survey, so that began Thursday. And actually, we thought it was going to be complete on Monday, but all the work that's going on, our surveyors have telling us now we're going to probably complete the information tomorrow. We're doing the beachfront profiles for the entire town. That's going to be done to assess shoreline volume losses. We're also doing it for the Council Beach forecastle area. If you remember, that was part of the permitting for the bars which we have for the upcoming project. The reason for us to collect that data there too is that they were concerned about if dredging that area has an effect on their shoreline. The town would be having to mitigate for those. So we wanted to collect this data to see what the storm recession would look like for this area. The survey of what we call the inlet and eastern channel, that's always something that we do. That's going to occur later, just given priorities with the surveying firm. What we want to do there is to assess the shoaling, see how much that is done, and how we might be able to use those areas in later projects. We're surveying the extent of the overwash to help determine the hardest of areas. There's some drone videos out and that. So that's what you guys will be voting on later tonight. The survey work, which is most of the work, probably 2/3 of the fee, and then our analysis, which is roughly 1/3 of the people we'll be looking at later tonight. Talking about the options. So we've been supporting the town and David over the last few days and over the weekend. Each day we're trying to help move the ball forward on these different options. So one, of course, is the beach pushing and bulldozing from the ocean side. So the town does have an active camera permit for that, but of course it's not allowed to do during turtle season. So they would have to immediately submit a final application to begin coordination for us to be able to try to get permission to do that. The intent of that is to, there's no bulldozing pushing allowed during the turtle window from April 1st to April 15th without first obtaining approval from North Carolina Wildlife Resources Commission and the U.S. Wildlife Service. In our discussions with them, they have told us to identify the priority areas for that to confirm those tremendous conflicts. Of course, we've told them that the whole beach is, the boom is gone from most of the whole beach. It's, if you want the priority, it's pretty much the whole town. The west end might be a little bit less, but there's not like one area that's really some worse than the other. The agency conversations to date suggest the beach may still be suitable for new nests to be laid, and 3 current nests are concerned. There's been emails today saying that they think maybe most of those are probably have been washed away or not currently viable. So they sent us some new information on some areas that they think they are still some nests that are viable. So we'll be looking at that to see if we can work around that. But the big risk here for everyone who's doing the sand fishing is that if a turtle nest or if the nest is compromised and a turtle egg is taken or destroyed, U.S. Fish and Wildlife can pursue legal action to the Endangered Species Act. And with, and sort of the worst case scenario that it leads up to is prison time. So, there is a real risk here to try to work around this issue. So we're having conversations every day. Doug, have I misstated anything to that effect?
No, sir, other than they provided us a listing of about 20 nests that they've been able to find. They cannot say whether the other 60-some of nests were destroyed or they simply can't locate them right now. That is the concern, moving forward. There just simply may be some of those 83 nests out there that have not been fully located and marked off right now.
So that's the issue we're working with, we're trying to work through. So, we're having conversations every day about what can be done, so we'll just continue to work with town staff and help try to find a path forward. The other one is, of course, the use of the overwash material from the land side. So in order to be able to do that, we would need to submit a DCO general permit 2,500. Unless Steve, I know that Braxton was here today, I don't know if he has said anything else, but at least in the last couple of days, what we have heard was we would need to submit a DCO general permit 2,500. If work is contained above mean high water, then the Corps of Engineers permit would not be required, so we would just be then talking about coastal management. But of course, the concern here too is that we would need to coordinate with, again, National North Carolina Wildlife Resources Commission and U.S. Fish and Wildlife if we were to begin work before November 15th. And again, everything I just said on the previous slide would still apply here. So, there is possibly less risk of uncovering or damaging the nest, if you're pushing material over it, but there just still is construction process. You can only control what you can control, so there are risks here with doing these between now and November 15th.
So you're saying that we can't do anything until November 15th, or we can't push to it? As far as the beach, burning, securing, protecting?
What I'm saying is, based on our conversations, we cannot have ground disturbing activities out in the beach area where there might be turtle nests currently until we work through some of these issues.
So, Mr. Martin, this is not the case that, we are a defenseless beach, essentially. We're in exigent circumstances. Is there not some appeal that can be made to the federal and state authorities? It seems to me this is not a typical situation. This is a paper, it's litigated.
Yes, so we have had those discussions. I know that town staff has had those discussions with federal representatives, and we're talking to everyone that we can talk to determine, is there a path forward? How can we get there? There has to be something that can be done.
One would hope that our two senators and congressmen are prepared to take up this challenge.
Yes, we met with them yesterday, Ralph Group, with the mayor, Councilman Blaylock, and Councilman Wyckoff. We brought that to their attention in the very first city. We let them know that we just flat out there in the situation that we're in. And we made sure that they understand exactly what Johnny just read to you about the first. We have gotten some good responses from the Ralph Group. They are looking into this and pushing it, and just figuring out more. They are pushing things for us too, so I believe we are getting somewhere. We didn't get any responses from this group to start with, and after some few calls by them and a few calls from us, we started getting these tidbits of information. We still don't know exactly where the turtle nests are, except for the ones that are located on the west end, like 42nd, 45th, I believe. So there's still some issues that we have that we're going to continue to push for, but there is concern that we need to keep this at the front to make sure everyone understands how vulnerable we are.
Did the governor give you any indication of whether we would be declared as a disaster area for FEMA funding or?
No, Steve Stone sent out an email this afternoon. They're still getting numbers. We are working on numbers still. Johnny's going to be providing some numbers for us after the survey is done. Steve and them are working on numbers as well with the management groups. We do have some that we're submitting so far, and we're trying to get declared. The state hasn't been declared yet. There is some FEMA things that we can get either way, but we're looking at debris and then also sand. But Holden Beach and then the numbers that they've been giving out,
and Ocean Island, and I think the numbers we give, hopefully we can get that category 4 sand fishing. But then again, we need to get it in a timely manner, so it wasn't in November. Holy Week in Ocean Island, about the same way we're hurt, they all sand too, but they're not as vulnerable as we are. So that is something that we have been pushing and pressing, and the county and the state so far has been letting us submit our numbers, and we are trying to get that to a threshold where we can declare.
These turtle nests, they're not GPS located.
Well, they should be, and they're supposed to be. That is one of the things that Malcolm Nickel asked for through the group. And they have provided some of the information. The information I think they sent out over the weekend, it was a list for like 10 years or something like that, where they had them up till 2019, they would get seen 2019 or 2020 on the list. That's when Johnny was talking about Doug, how they started giving us some information currently, but they haven't given us everything that we need. We just keep getting reminded that it is a dangerous species. We all know that. But it is something that we also need to protect, and we need to protect ourselves as well. We don't know if the nests are still there. And I don't even know if we can start digging to look for that. But then that's a ground activity. So
It looks like to me that would be something we need to push forward. Is that, and, I don't know if it takes an ordinance or whatever. I think that's absolutely crucial.
Yeah, the biggest issue is that, there's a federal law, it's the Endangered Species Act. And if there is a take, what they call a take, so the turtle is killed or damaged with the turtle egg, and by law, U.S. Fish and Wildlife has to have their judicial branch or the legal team look at what was done, and that legal team determines what kind of action may be brought forward against the party that harmed the nest. Correct me if I'm wrong.
We'll visit, Johnny.
Yeah, right. I told David, he or I will just have to cross straws.
let me ask a question, Mike. Is I see that there were 83 that were identified.
Yes, sir.
And now there's supposed to be 40 that are identified.
They sent us an email today, and this is what they said, that they've been able to locate, I think it was county.
Yeah, plus or minus 20, I think there was one area where they set aside a large area with multiple nests. I believe it's about 20.
And it was, and the two areas that they located, that they sent us the 20 today, are at the extreme west of the town and at the extreme east of the town. So that's good in the fact that maybe, there's a little bit less risk, but they're always, every email that we get from them ends with, we want to try to work with you, and maybe you could do things during the day. You would have to clear the beach beforehand with turtle volunteers. But just still remember, if there is a nest that is uncovered or damaged, there is still the risk of, well, we will still have to turn this over to our legal group, and they'll have to determine what action, if any, may be taken.
Johnny, in the past, have the nest been relocated? Or if that's the case, do we not pursue that too?
Well, the thing is now that, is everyone thinks they kind of, well, we don't know that, but we haven't gotten the location of the 83. But, what they're saying is that those are not have been moved. Because we've been asking, for the last 3 or 4 days, give us the next location so we can look at it and see if there's work potential on it. They're saying, well, that's where, even if we give it to you, that's where they were, but that doesn't mean that's where they are now. They're still viable. So
Today's technology, I cannot believe that you can't, the turtle program can't pinpoint when a mother turtle comes up and lays her eggs and they find it. Why? I don't understand why it's not GPS coordinated when you know exactly where it is.
Well, we're asking the questions every day. We're trying to move this ball forward. So is there anything that I have not stated that I should have stated?
I don't believe so, no.
I know 2 years ago, we talked about this, we met with people downstairs, Doctor, I believe, Mr. Doctor, and he explained to us at that point, because we had some of the people in the public forum who over the escort, and the third group said we will not give that information out because we don't want people to damage it. Right, but they did state at that time, they did GPS, or they knew where they were, but they were not going to make a comment out. The doctor at that time made a point to them and said, tell them that this needs to be recorded, those kind of things, but the information they sent to us over the weekend, or the other day, doesn't show what 2019 was or 2020.
I would like that to be pursued, because I think the federal turtle program needs to know that it's not being, because that's not the town, that's a separate turtle program, correct? Those are not our employees.
Those are a volunteer organization that goes work through this group, and we have been touching base with as many people as we can. When we brought this up, they said that yes, these are volunteer organizations. They've been hesitant to put additional things on that group. So, as far as, so I think that's why, and again, I don't know because I haven't seen the data, but that might be why there's, I think this is where there might be a hodgepodge of some do this way, some do that way, but I'm not sure because I haven't seen the data yet.
I'm a turtle lover, and I love the turtles, and I love the parents, but to not be keeping the accurate records that could cause, catastrophe to us if we're not able to protect ourselves, I just have a problem with that.
Well, I think the summary here is this is a well-intentioned but poorly designed law. It doesn't have any extant circumstance clause, so you can't revoke it or modify it. You're left on a treasure trove on the turtles. Essentially what you're doing, right? It's flat out ludicrous. But it's federal law, so that's my comment.
Well, we're continuing to push it. We're trying to get the data so we can see it ourselves and make our assessments. And then we'll be talking with the town. I'm sure we'll be talking with Brian to help us navigate, the risk here. And because again, November 15th was a long time from now. What we can do between now and then, we try to do it all possible.
If I may, Mayor, Tony, there wasn't, I'm assuming you guys already looked at this, and I haven't been brought into this yet, but I'll certainly jump on. No emergency type exceptions or anything like that we were able to locate.
I have been working on this issue, not just for this town, but for other towns for quite a while. Certainly not an expert, Mike. Certainly, and I'm Doug Huggett with Moffitt and Nickel. For the purposes of this discussion, I used to work with the Division of Coastal Management, where I've had a lot of interaction with this type of thing as well. Not just with this community, but with other communities and other years after similar storms. And while I don't claim to be a legal analyst at all, I am not aware of, I've never seen any kind of exemption or exception that you're mentioning brought to bear by the Fish and Wildlife Service. They do try and work with us when they can, but their laws are still pretty stringent, and the flexibility that they have usually shown is minimal.
And as Johnny mentioned, federal law grants, state or local law. I assume, if we can look into this, but I assume if in the unfortunate event a turtle killer is breached, and they assess whether they're going to bring some sort of prosecution, they look at various mitigating factors. And a flat beach with no protection may very well be one of the factors. It's not automatically that they can prosecute, I would think. But that's something we're just going to have to discuss with them.
That's right. I can't get my head into what their legal counsel and their enforcement are in favor of that.
Well, I'll tell you, Doug knows more coastal law than most coastal lawyers. I know that from experience. We'll, to summarize that, Jael, we'll get together and work with their legal counsel as well. And certainly it doesn't hurt to have our elected officials lobbying for us.
No, absolutely, and I mean, we are finally now getting to the point where there's at least some exchange of information, as David said, so that's been a positive step, because until, the last 2 days over the weekend, it was, give us the priority areas, we were like, it's the whole beach, give the priority areas, it's the whole beach, so, that was, but now we're getting at least some of this information. There again, at the end of the day, this is just where you'll come in. We will likely come to a decision point of is the risk. We'll decide whether the risk and decide if we want to move forward, if the town wants to move forward or not.
I agree with Councilman Mike. They should take this as a learning experience because it's bound to happen again. I mean, they have to have something. Look what we're standing to lose economically for the purpose of saving how many?
There's no way that Alan would tell you whether the turtle net was there or not.
Well, again, we got some information today about at least, I'm sure that they've been out here trying to locate where they can, the turtle nets. So I think, and again, this is just all very fluid and happening very fast, but the email we got today said that these are the 20 nests that we've been able to locate and we still think are viable. It doesn't mean that there's not other ones that we did not find, but these are the ones that we have located and we know are likely still viable. So then, it's all these different areas, these different shades of gray that we will be working through here.
Could I give a little clarity on what I believe the turtle search is provided?
In talking to the Fish and Wildlife Service earlier today, I believe that what the situation is, yes, most of the turtle nests, if not all, were GPS. However, I don't believe that they were using survey grade GPS units, and the error on those GPSs, I don't know, 5, 10, 15 feet. So what they really wanted to do when they went out to take a look and see if the nest was still there, I believe they had put metal stakes and some predator exclusion metal cages. I guess there's some box problems with this. And they actually went out to try to locate the portions of these excluder devices with metal detectors. And that's how they were able to determine where the nests were. Otherwise, without that, and with what I believe is the imprecision of the GPS units they were using, they were looking at a rather large radius of an area where the nest could be. You obviously can't go through and poke a hole until you hit a turtle. And you can't dig them up, so there's no other way for them to know whether that turtle nest is there or not if these little metal remnants of the excluder devices are not still there. That's the reason they're very concerned that while they've identified maybe as many as 20, there certainly could be quite a few more viable nests out there. And that's where their continued caution to any applicant comes into play.
But the metal things would be there without turtles, too, right?
I guess it's very possible that through all the usages on a beach, there could be metal that will be out there. I think when they hit the metal, they tried to dig down to see if there was a piece of the post of the excluder device, I would imagine.
Can you do anything with ground penetrating radar, or is that true?
I don't know.
Something for us to talk about and bring up. I'm sorry, yeah, so so there was a question that Roger's group came to us and said, is there, if they're submerged under salt water for a given amount of time, is the nest no longer viable? And, we looked at some research, this afternoon that was showing that, if it was up to, I think it was, and again, if it was a short amount of time, maybe 5% of the nets might be affected. If it was for a couple of days, it might be more than half of it. So it seemed that, I don't know if we could really use that argument, just given the amount of time that the nets were inundated. Because again, with the storm moving as fast as it did, the inundation time, even if it was up to a day, would probably still impact. I can't remember from that paper mark, like 5 to 10%. It was only if they were submerged for more than a day that the liability really dropped off. Any more questions on that?
Is there a timeline they have to get all this information to us?
We're in constant contact with them every day to continue to ask that. We have not given them a timeline yet, just because, we have not provided them a timeline. But again, we're pushing this every day with them. So, and I think that they have had staff out here, so they do realize the seriousness of the situation. Okay, so another option that we're looking at is an emergency burn doing with dumping material. So if you remember what we did during Matthew back in 2017, 2018, where we put the small protective burn out there, we're just looking to see what that would be. Again, we could do that with a general permit. In theory, the approval for the power permit would be days. Again, if we could contain the work above mean high water, we didn't have to do the Corps of Engineers not have to be involved. There again, if we want to work before the 15th, we have the same issue with that, with the Wildlife Resource Commission, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife. We have already contacted 2 contractors with open sand pits, and we're trying to get some prices and timelines for them. Of course, just given the issues that happened with the last project, and if you remember, that's why we had to kind of go look at offshore sources because of some of the issues that happened with that project after Matthew. Testing will be required for these, so even though we can get the permit in a couple of, it says the permit could be done in a couple of days. We would have to test those pits to make sure that they would reach quality. And the reason that we're looking at this is areas outside the upcoming 2020-2021 project would likely receive this emergency doing burn if cost effective and feasible. So again, we had to have a conversation with FEMA, but what we are trying to do is we have this project that's coming online, later this winter. But that's only for roughly half of the beach. It's not for the entire beach. So we're looking at what are some costs, what some things that could be done to provide protection for that other half of the beach until next year we do the larger project for that area. So that's one option that we're kind of looking through and trying to get prices for. And again, just to remind you, here's a map showing the anticipated 2020-2021 project. And so the areas where the emergency burn in would be east of southeast of 63rd Street, as well as west of Middleton Avenue. What we're looking at there is again, there would be no beach burner or material placed out to the water. This would be a doing like we built during Matthew with 1 to 4 side slopes. We're currently considering different height options, 6, 8, 10 feet. Again, we get the survey back and we kind of figure out what the berm elevation is at now. We kind of see, what height we would want to recommend. Depending on if it's a 6-foot dune, it would be roughly 200,000 cubic yards to do that. If we have to go up to a 10-foot, it would be roughly 500,000 cubic yards. And so that's what we are trying. We're working with those contractors to get some pricing for on that. We also are having some
discussions with Great Lakes. We asked them for their updated schedule. They're supposed to now start mid-January. So that's when they're planning to start here and are planning to be done by the end of February. So that's a 6-week time frame. So that would still provide some additional time. Because the permit we have now allows work all the way up to April 30th. But of course, we currently only have permits to nourish the portion of the town under the 2021 project. We our permit for the rest of the town for the next year's project is soon to be submitted. We turned it into DCM to have a quick look at it for completeness before we turn it over to the other agencies. One of the things we talked about with them late last week was to the current permit that we do have for the project upcoming this winter. Can we modify that to allow for construction of that emergency berm that I just showed you instead of getting our own permit? And the reason for that is to look at possibly if we can use, if there's enough material in that bar area under our current permit, we can do it. We think that it'll be cheaper than using an upland truck source, that we could actually have Great Lakes build a pad out on the beach with that material and then truck it along the beach. So we're asking them to give us a cost for that as well. So the discussions we're having with Great Lakes is, do they have time to schedule for the additional work? If you remember when we authorized the contract with them a couple of months ago, we did not go all the way in the area. We stopped roughly around Middleton Avenue, where we have permits to go all the way to South Coast West. So we're going to ask them for, do they have time to do that? What the cost of that? And again, this idea of possibly stockpiling the sand for trucks to move that 200 to 500,000 feet of drugs instead of using the health source. And again, the reason for that is we think it should be more cost effective to do that than using another source. So as you can tell, we're working on all these options and then come back to you guys to see, okay, these are the things we think could be done, viable, this is what the cost will be, and figure out which way we want to move forward. Just to remind you, this is the what we're planning to build this winter. The dune is between 13.5 elevation 13.5 to 14. So the dune is on average about 7 foot high looking from the road. Again, we'll see what the storm did to that and how it might change the volumes that we need with that. So we'll adjust that. Another thing we are talking about is in talking with the agencies. If we turn in this project, and since Great Lakes is currently not planning to be here till January, and if they really do think that they could finish by end of February, and if they could hang around here for long enough, is there a way that they could go ahead and do the 2021-2022 project as well while they're here? We know it's going to be challenging and it might be a long shot, but at least we want to ask and just looking at all options here. So the coordination with Great Lakes would be significant. Of course, the schedule filling up, different dredges would be required. They're currently bringing a pipeline dredge here, and the distance that the west end of the town would require a different dredge to do that part of the town. It would be a hopper dredge. Current project, as you guys know, is $15.7 million. The 2021-2022 project would require an additional $14 to $20 million, depending on what we do. And the permitting would have to be expedited for the project that we're just getting ready to turn in, but we would hope that we could get the permission for that one by the end of the year. But there again, trying to do all of this work, we may encounter more turtle issues if we don't have that completed by April 30th of next year. But that's just something else that we're looking at doing. The final slide, the additional comments is, again, as David said, tomorrow we're going to be giving them our best shot. The survey information won't be completed till tomorrow. It will probably be into the week we get all the survey data, but we've asked for some preliminary things for us to at least come up with a reasonable estimate of volume loss so we can give you guys a number tomorrow. That needs to be turned in. We'll have a discussion with emergency management. And there again, just giving this
federal issue individuals taking actions to legally gun stand on must also consult DCM and the two groups, the Wildlife Resource Commission and the U.S. Fish and Wildlife. So that's the end of my presentation. That's what we're working on to try to move these different laws forward.
Can we have a quick synopsis on the difference in sifting the sand or and hauling it in?
I'm sorry?
Sifting,
Right.
we have sand, it's just not in the right place.
Right. So that's what we're talking about here with this using the overwash material land side. So yes, and thank you for that. Councilor Bell, because yeah, one thing we haven't told is that that material does have to be screened before it's placed on the beach, back on the beach. So yeah, the two other people that we're talking about, we're also talking about getting a screen of the day. We was talking to someone about that as well. So we're trying to get a number of different prices for that option as well. Again, so again, hopefully that should be cheaper than doing it from a source too. So it might be a combination of the two until we know what the volume of that material is. And the surveyors are another thing that while they have not been able to finish yet is that they are surveying the stockpiles as well. So I know that's a lot of information, but they want me to come up and want us to come up and tell you all these different fingers that we're trying to run down to see what can be done from there.
Thank you, Mr. Martin.
Okay. Thank you.
Anything you wanted to add to that, David?
Oh, no, sir, no, that's not.
Okay.
I think Brian can address the other issue then.
Thank you, Mr. Kelly. Mayor, council, in my opinion, and I prefer town clerk she agrees. We do not believe that notice of public hearing is broad enough to make a second motion at this meeting. So we would need to advertise and bring that up.
We'll put that on next month's agenda.
All right, adjustment approval agenda, there's two changes. One is item 6.2, you did it. That town staff ready for that, mark 6.2. Code ordinance chapter 32. The council got here to recognize want to make a big to go business.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to add the old business, something we discussed last month. That's the pickleball court. We have some recommendations from Parks and Rec Authority.
I make a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
Second.
Okay, right. For the first of the public comments, I think Councilman Fox wanted to.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm sure most of the audience is familiar with Roseanne Fortner. Unfortunately, she was not able to make it this evening, but she did ask me to make two quick information points about Beach Preservation Society. So there are a number of individual cleanup efforts underway. She is encouraging those involved in these cleanup efforts, be they in small group or solo, to upload to the Facebook page, KIVPSI@gmail.com, so that we can begin to catalog the volunteer effort going on cleaning up our beaches. She also notes that many of our beach amenities have been destroyed, displaced, of course, quite expensive. Beach Preservation Society will hold an auction for its members later this month to raise funds. You can also make a donation directly on the website at Oglala Beach Preservation Society. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Other public comment?
Council reports, council reports, and
Oh,
mayor
yeah,
reports.
yeah, I'm sorry. All right.
I'll be happy to leave this off. I'm already in the bullpen.
Go ahead.
So,
We'll go left or right.
it's been a very, I won't say traumatic period of time for quite a number of people. I do want to say that we feel your anguish, and we understand the frustration. I would like to begin on the positive side, though. Providence certainly provided shelter for us with no loss of life. I would note the pluck and perseverance and determination of all of our staff, first responders, volunteers, and also the extraordinary charity of our community. I happened to be walking the beach with my wife, surveying damage, came up at 40th Street, and a woman with several young children pulled up and started giving support. It's just a wonderful act of kindness and obviously spontaneous. And I've seen that all over the island. That is hard. On the other side, there's a lot of frustration, a lot of people's patience is exhausted. We understand that. This is a complicated, multi-agency, multi-faceted process, and it never goes smoothly after a catastrophe, at least in the beginning. But I hear in your comments and your emails two takeaways. One, we need to be better at communication, even though I think we need to improve. We need to be nimble, we need to be more robust. That's critical. We've got to be better there. And the other thing is, I think we have some major policy considerations, especially in view of the damage to the beach, in terms of the way we see evacuations, the way we see storms. Our prior understanding was obviously about ending on this storm. My final comment is that there are some people who seem to believe this task is insurmountable. And who seem to believe that we're not going to be able to accomplish the building. And to them, I'm going to give you my favorite Churchill quote: "We will not falter, flag, or fail. We will go on until it is rebuilt, period. Will it take time? Will it be messy? Will it be setbacks? Yes. But we are determined. Our community is determined." So that gives me hope. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
And in ending that way, I've seen quite a few of these storms. This one did surprise me a little. After Floyd would look somewhat like it look right now, with the exception of we don't have washers, as many washers, dryers, toilets, bathtubs. I cannot thank our wonderful staff enough. Of course, police and fire, but I have a couple of special groups that I need to show my appreciation. I worked for local government for over 25 years, and I worked in every department with the exception of fire, rescue, and police. The hardest 7 years of my career was spent in inspections department. These guys are taking the brunt right now. They are doing a phenomenal job, and I really appreciate it. The second group, or third group, it doesn't matter, they're all in this together, is our public works department. They've cleared sand, they've picked up wood, they've tried to put the town buildings and maintenance back together. They picked up more brush than I've ever seen in my lifetime. Kudos to your group, Scott. And our public utilities department. That's our sewer and water guys who are sometimes down there digging by hand to find your sewer and your water lines to get you back online. So I just want to thank our staff and of course our wonderful management, admin, the whole staff. But I just had to say those three departments often get left behind.
I couldn't have said it any better than Sheila did. Everybody just worked together, and it's just been amazing. And I understand Chief Anselmo's not here, but I understand that the firefighters fought a fire and wasted water. Did they make a connection to the hydrant under the water, David? Is that what?
One on Beach Drive they did, and then they would have these go down the drive and everything.
Okay. But an amazing job there. Thank you so much.
After this was bad, they are heroes. Town manager is that. All the employees, you see. Under electric, emergency services, the rescue team, fire department, national guard, law enforcement, Brayton County Sheriff, deputies, Brayton County Sheriff, deputies. Picking utilities, the contractors that come in, all the people that would feed the first responders.
Follow that one in a minute. I agree with everything that they've said. It's been a fantastic team effort on everybody's part. I especially was proud to see that of the emails I received, I would say 70% of them were supportive and positive, which is unusual in a situation like this. Usually you hear from the bad side, but we heard a lot of good stuff. Don't give up, hang in there. I've had several people call me and ask me if anything I can do, businesses and so forth. So, if there's a good side of this, it's that human side. It was great.
Well, all my council members said exactly right. It takes a team to get things done, not one individual can do it by themselves. We learned that, we worked together to make sure things happen. The minute we put Mr. Kelly in charge of the town, things started improving, things started working together. Our staff, you can't, they're incredible. The outside agencies who locked in to help us, it's just wonderful to have people here. Our job is to make sure we get it right. We're here on out. One of the big things, like Councilor Fox said, is communication. I think we need to work on that because when people don't have power, people need to channel late and it makes it hard to communicate with our residents. So we need to work on ways that will give us to relay messages in different ways so they can understand what's going on in our town. Yesterday, the mayor, Councilor Blaylock, and myself met with Senator David Rouser, Commissioner Pat Sykes at Huntington, North Carolina House Speaker Ken Moore, House Representative, our district, Frank Island, Brendan Jones, Holly Burns, and Ted Davis. We told them how our residents were suffering, the help we needed, and all the red tape when things are promised, the red tape needs to go away. We need to make things easier for our residents to be able to get help they need. They told us they had a rainy day fund of over $1 billion. They had actually $400 million set to the side. So our job is to press to get some of that money to be able to help our residents. That's what we need to focus on, how we can build our town back better and stronger for this next storm that may come.
Public comment. Anybody want to make any public comment?
Yes, sir, I have a list. Helen Cashbaugh.
Cashville, 3407 East Yacht. I congratulate you on how well you handled this crisis. It has been an amazing thing. It's been a really bad thing. However, we are still getting ready for hurricane season. So because of that, I'm going to bring something to your attention. A citizen on Elizabeth Drive noticed workers remove a cover on the manhole in front of her house and putting a hose from a tank truck in the hole. There was no identification on the equipment. So she asked them what they were doing, and they told her they were dumping sewage from King's Lynn into the gravity system in Milford. And filled some of the liquid from the ground, and then they left. She called town hall and got nobody. Since King's Lynn sewer is open today, according to the town maps that was published, are we playing favorites by location since that pumping station was being relieved of more than it could use? Remember the offload. A further worry in this stage was the virus. How about the spill from the pumping? How was the decision made regarding such an activity, and who were the contractors? Our town manager knows every detail regarding pumping station capacities, and council has been remiss in not asking for those reports. Development Services is also not abided by the capacities for building. And just remember, your sins will find you out. It's time council asks and demanded a published report for the capacities of all of these stations quickly. We have been in a tourist season where capacities have been stretched, and they need to be requested by the month so you can tell when that season will impact it. And the gravity system in Milford was to be running out of capacity soon. What were the plans when that happened? I'm asking that Mayor Kim Thomas, who provided transparency and everything, provide the public with a public report of how all this was and who gave the contract. By the way, there were no masks seen. And then in the middle of this virus crisis, what about the spilled liquid?
Betty,
Sorry, I'm sitting too long. I'm here to Bedford Spring. My name is Betty Huck. I live at 7916 East Rock Drive. And I've been coming here since 1957, as you might know. I was here when there might have been 3 people on the beach and said, gosh, there's this big cracker book. Find someplace to go. Now, so what I'm going to say one more time is this town services department is letting developers put too big a house on too small a lot. I said this years ago. You put too big a house on too small a lot, you don't have enough room for grass, or trees, or anything to hold the sand. Our UDO says houses cannot be larger than 3,999 square feet. But our city planner says, and I quote almost verbatim, all you gotta do is get a variance. Also, swimming pools have, get this, pervious surfaces. That means sand may penetrate the top of the pool, but it better shrunk, but have an impervious surface in the bottom. And those pools wash out. There should be no more pools between the houses and the dunes, because that's where a lot of problem occurs. Those of us who live in small houses with trees and shrubs to protect us from strong winds are being asked to replace sand that will be only washed out again. It's washed out again. Beach renourishment is a joke here because nobody takes care of our beaches. If you're on beachfront or second or third row, development services and our town officials must adhere to our UDO instead of finding ways to circumvent it. If they don't, they need to find other employment because our beaches are gone. Taking care of our beach, what's left, not beach renourishment is the answer. And thank you for listening.
Jackie Goldfuss.
Jackie Goldfuss, 1502 West Shore Drive. I hadn't intended to really speak tonight because I was kind of waiting till that new business that Loman Scott was referring to came. He said, I would like to hear what your comment is about that before I speak. You had said something that you were about the planning board, the advisory committee last night, and said something about pickleball. Are you planning on telling us tonight, or no?
Yes, ma'am, that'll be on.
Okay, well then I don't want to talk till after you say what you said. Is that okay?
This is the public comment section of the agenda, so you can only speak now, you can't speak once the meeting starts.
Okay, all right, thanks, Joe. I actually think this is a really stupid topic to be speaking about now, and I really kind of feel bad about it. I mean, pickleball and tennis, is that really a priority right now? I mean, I want to compliment all of you, and I can't imagine the amount of work you have been going through with all this devastation. And I think you're all doing a great job, and I think our community is great too. I mean, I have seen so many people helping, like everyone else has said. I can't imagine how devastating this is, because I can't get down here and see it, but from what I hear. But that's why I kind of think this pickleball and tennis thing sounds like so minuscule compared to what is going on now with our whole beach, our community, and everything. So that's why I wanted to hear what Mom said before I say. I just want to, and I do kind of feel bad talking about pickleball with all this mess going on, but you have forced me to. So, I'm a little confused because and I know you can help me straighten this out. 2 meetings ago, this board decided that they were going to set a fee for the pickleballers that were non-residents. Okay, so I thought that was a done deal. You went to session, you came back, you all made a decision, you even came up with the amounts. I thought, okay, that's done. Then I go to then you wanted to refer it to the Rec and Parks Advisory Board because to find out how you were going to keep track of it. It was their job to figure out, okay, how are we going to mandate this? Or I don't know if mandate is the right word. How are we going to make this happen? There were a few suggestions when my friend passed out pamphlets. I know Loman got one because he was there. I think you were there too, David, about these badge things that would not, make the cost go up to pay somebody to check pickleball and tennis courts. So, but I don't understand. When I went to that meeting, and I don't know if this meeting is the same as that meeting, they were talking like they hadn't even.
3 minutes is up.
Oh, they hadn't even cared about what you said. So I want to know: is it happening? Did you make an ordinance? Did they override it? What's going on? So I guess I have to wait to hear from them. Thank you. That's so long.
Mike Ford.
to get a contract for him, because I know Public Works has had up other issues that are probably more important. But our yard waste, if you ride the streets, is just getting bigger and bigger. And it hasn't been taken care of since we changed last June to every other month, and it's just accumulated. Is there any way you can get contractors in to handle that now? Because Public Works is tied up. There's only 3 people registered for yard waste pickup. Thank you.
That's all I have to sign up.
Okay, thank you. Consent agenda.
I make a motion to approve the consent.
Second.
All in favor? Okay. Committee appointments. Environmental Advisory Committee. We have 2 applicants. We'll go left to right. You may appoint one. I will call each name out individually to all this. Pam Cal. Larry, am I saying that correctly?
Close enough.
All in favor of her? 1. Diane Wetzel. 4. Okay, we'll move on to the Board of Adjustment, the alternate position. First name, Sean, 2 for people, Sean Berry. Charles Farley, that's 5 votes. Move on down to 1. Planning Board. We're going to appoint 3, and then after we appoint 3, then we're going to pick the extraterritorial jurisdiction out one out of them 3. Okay. Ray Barcalow. Bob Callahan. 4.
Who's 5?
5. Okay, I didn't see his name. 5. Bob Carter. Daniel Davison. 5. Mike DiPio. Christina Dooley. Bill Dudley. John Glenn. Amber Harris Sanchez. Tom Eisenhower. 0. Gary McCullough. 0. Steve Martin. 0. Tim Pitt. 2 votes. Correct. Darrell Royal. 3 votes. Natasha Tatum. 5 votes.
All right, let's go.
It is Bob,
Callahan.
Carla, Darrell Royal, and
Callahan.
Callahan.
Bob Callahan.
Callahan. Okay, Bob Callahan. I'm sorry. Darrell Royal. Now, we have Darrell Royal. Arthur Tate. 500 feet. Would be
The extraterritorial jurisdiction actually has to go through, is it the county, Lisa,
Thank
to be approved
Yes,
to
ma'am.
be that plan?
Yes, ma'am, we'll all select an individual and move forward to the county for the commissioners to approve.
Thank you.
administrative reports. David?
Yes, sir. First, I want to thank everybody for coming tonight and attending the meeting. And let y'all know we can't do anything without the support of council and support of the staff. So everybody's working together and working as a team to get these things done. Just to give you a few little numbers to start with, we had over 200 cars that were removed after the storm. Currently, Brunswick Electric sent me an email right at 6 o'clock. There's 600 homes still without power. We've restored power to the island to all the areas. These are the ones that have damage to them that will require electrical permits. And there's a process that you need to follow. It's online, Facebook, and everywhere else we've been posting. Water cutoff for leaks and sewer maps are being posted. We will update those daily so everybody can know where the sewer is in those areas. The Kings Lynn area is back up and running 100%. We started in Area 3, which is where we're sitting, and then we started going west, so they were the last ones to start to be brought up. And we had to look at it in areas that we could get the most customers on when we started on Dolphin and Pelican Drive to try to get the citizens back. And that's where we've been working. You've seen Peace Drive was pretty much devastated. We have the sand across the street, first and second rows. We have debris washed out into the canals. There's all kinds of mess that we've been trying to go through. We first had people come in and start cleaning the road floors. We used public works, we used contractors, and they had to start moving things out of the way so we could get there. And also to get the vehicles, the washing machines, refrigerators, and everything else out of the way so we can go back to work. Brunswick Electric came in quickly, and we've been working with them the whole time. They had right at 24 crews here at one time working. They were down to 4 crews today. But after today, they will start doing service work. We just like doing new construction or change out on the meter box. If you had something wrong with your electrical, we get an electrical permit, we get an inspection. Steve's group will fax it over to Brunswick Electric, and they will dispatch a crew to come restore your power, just like we have done in the past. Camera permits, you still need to contact Steve's group. We have to get those. The sand, we stopped people pushing sand on the beachfront. The reason why we had to do that, we had them pushing sand and everything over the utilities, and it was starting to hinder the speed that we were trying to do to get the utilities restored. We will get back to that here as soon as we can. The utility contractor that we have is cleaning it from right away to right away now, so we can get back to the water and the sewer and to get Spectrum and everybody back in here so we can get services restored to everyone. We've got the water on all the way down Beach Drive from 58th Street down to the west end. We have water cut off at people's houses or meters that had damage. You may still see a few. If you see those, please call us and let us know where you see them so we can get those cut off. But I think the crews have done a great job getting things back to this point. Our biggest concern was the safety of the workers. And so we had the police and the council design or devise a plan to go forward. And what we did is we put in an area where we've had curfews and checkpoints. If you don't live in there, we don't need you in there right now. We all know that everybody wants to go look at things. So we need to try to keep it safe for everybody in there working. When you do go in there, you have to live there or you have to be a contractor. Contractors are going by development services, getting paperwork. So we have to go out there and work in those areas. Today was the first day that we allowed people to start using graders and those kind of things along Dolphin and Pelican. So we are making progress. This is a slow process, but it's sort of a step that we go through to try to make sure everything stays safe and we don't skip anybody as we go. So we're trying to restore everything as we're going forward. The hardest thing that we're having now is we're digging back out the sewer. Everybody, when you do get to go down there, you see pictures. Some of the sewer lines are burning off the houses. So those lines are having to be disconnected before we can start that system back up. It'll do the same thing if it was gravity or vacuum, so either one of those systems would have done the same thing. Going forward, the next few days, we will continue to change the declaration. We opened up another area right before the meeting, which is going to start being called by the sewer maps, the vacuum station number 1. But all that from the street where I think it was 36th Place West, all the way to the West Beach, 33rd. 30th Street, all the way west, to West Beach and Kings Land is open now. So we're still going to have checkpoints and those kind of things for a while. We're looking at carrying that at least through this weekend. And what it does is, like I said, it keeps everybody safe inside when they're in there working. Beach Drive is clear to probably the bike paths that everybody's familiar with right now, but we still got to grade off more. We're putting sand onto the beach accesses. We're putting it into the streets, as Johnny talked about, so we can sift it later. So we're trying to do everything we can to make things where we don't have to do things 2 or 3 times. People look at it and think maybe we should do things different ways, but we've had a few storms since we've been here, and I think what we're doing is a pretty good idea of what we need to do to go forward. As we go through, the contractors will still be required to get permits. And by having the checkpoints, I think it's helped Steve's group be able to keep things organized and keep people coming in to get the permits. When we first started this back up before we did this, contractors were going in, open meters, those kind of things, doing electrical work. And our biggest problem was we didn't want to turn the juice on and have somebody's hands in boxes. So that's why we shut everything down like we did. So it was a safety concern. Curfews will stay in place for a while, through this weekend at least. Same thing with no short-term rentals. We don't need anybody in there because we don't have any beach accesses or anything for them to be able to access. The beach is still closed from 40th Street down to the west end. These things we'll start looking at the beginning of next week to try to clear some accesses. Scott's group will start opening up things as we can. We're not saying we're going to allow parking at these accesses, but people inside this area will have access to the beach at some point. We know we got to get those things opened back up. We'll continue to work on the utilities. Like I said, we'll update the maps every day. The crew started working on 5th Place West, and what they did is they started there going toward 22nd Place West. We got to 20th Street, and what we like to do is leave the system charged for about 10 to 12 hours before we say it's good, and then we start letting people back into those areas. So we will try to update every day where people can come in. Our goal right now is to finish the vacuum station area 2, which goes from 16th Place East to 30th West. So that area is the main concern that we're in there now, trying to get that. We haven't forgotten about the people down here on 58th Street. We started digging those things out today. We started at 40th and on 58th. So those people should be restored here, hopefully by Friday as well. So Friday is a big day for us, what we're shooting for. We won't have everybody back up, but we should have probably about 85 to 90% of the sewer back online. We will have a few areas that we still have to concentrate on. Let's see. I think that's a quick overview on the things we're doing right now, unless you have some specific questions.
So what do you need from us as far as, I know the short-term rentals are a question. Biggest thing is they want as much notice as they can have to be able to tell their renters, no, you're not coming this weekend.
Correct.
On Saturday.
Yes.
So what?
I know what you've done so far this week. We put in no short-term rentals until this Saturday or Friday. If you want that for your states. We probably will need to continue that for another week. There's nothing really for them to come to in that area.
Right. Do you think by the 22nd?
We are hoping to have something open, but it all depends what we can start doing with the sand. We're going to have sand everywhere. And after we get done restoring the utilities, the water, sewer, and spectrum, and those people coming in, then we're going to have to let people start digging out. And when they start digging out, we're going to have roadways and accesses for them to be able to put their sand. Volume of sand is what we're having to deal with. Now, some areas have no sand, but they have debris, so those areas will open up, quicker than what the other areas are. But I'd say the short-term rentals, talking with staff today, will probably extend another week. And I know they need that for insurance purposes and those kind of things. We probably the quicker we come to that conclusion, the better off, they would be. So I would say another week at least would be what would be required.
Mr. Kelly, thank you for providing the data, which people have been anxiously awaiting, and thank you for the maps, they're very helpful. I have a request for the next meeting. Looking at the last meeting before I came this evening, the mayor brought up the issue of mini hotels. We talked about fire attendant seats and 1.8 in the UDO. I think it's unclear how and under what circumstances we could actually investigate. So interestingly, in our local newspaper this week, there are two houses advertised. One has 9 bedrooms, 7 baths, speaking of capacity, and the other one has 10 bedrooms, 9 baths. One of them is listed as a rental giant, $1.9 million of rental. So I guess my question is, at what point can we declare, and what's the process to get there? That is unclear.
Sure, and I would say the strongest way to do it would be to develop probable cause to get an administrative search warrant. Steve can speak to that. And then at that point, you could also seek a subpoena to subpoena financial records and reservation, not just financial records, but reservation information, like most of those applications, because how many people come and things like that. So I would think that a advertisement would be a step, if not probable cause in and of itself, certainly a step in that direction.
Literally in black and white.
I mean, if you wanted to go
Take
that
our
route,
time, investigate if we can, we're gonna make a little campaign and break. We're gonna write back, we check over